Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. Today, we're going to be talking about mental health and small businesses. I have Dennis Santiago on the show today, and he's going to share his experience with being an entrepreneurship surrounded by mental health. Get you something to drink, get you a snack, and come on back. All right, Dennis, welcome back. How are you doing?
Oh, nice to see you again.
Quick break, man. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed this first part of the show, man. You shared a lot of good information, and I want to kind of dive into the financial part of things because when we first initially talked about this and we kind of came up with a title, I started doing my own research, and it never occurred to me to focus on like entrepreneurship or small businesses and how mental health would affect them. But I want to kind of take it back a little bit to the COVID area because I know during that time a lot of small businesses was affected financially and mentally during that time. I mean, we got to think we had to kind of we was restricted in certain areas, and that's where a lot of the work from home was birthed from because people couldn't go into the office.
hmm
So, can you think of any stories you can share or any people you knew or even your own experience of how a business was affected by COVID financially and mentally?
Oh my God. COVID was it was li- it was a life-changing event for pretty much every business that
Yeah.
I know. I mean, so like because so when COVID hit, I was working for a company in New York, flying back and forth. 2 weeks in California, 2 weeks in New York. Boom, 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 boom. COVID
Wow.
hits, and I'm not getting on a plane unless I have to, right?
Yeah.
And I was at the age where I go like, I should just retire,
Yeah.
right? So I go like, okay, and it's like I'm gonna try that for a while because it's not like I can't find other stuff to do if I get bored. And oh, by the way, I did get bored, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Um, yeah. So, but for everybody else, it was so all my friends that had small businesses, restaurants, stuff like that, stores, like they're scrambling
Yeah.
because their little brick and mortars, like what are they going to do,
Right.
right? They're
Right.
so they're adapting and they're going um they're trying to learn how to do deliveries,
Right.
right? And then you got all the new delivery companies, that start, but they charge a lot of money
Yeah.
on top of the cost of the food to deliver,
Yeah.
right? So people's cost of food is going up. Everybody else is stuck at home, right? Their work's making them stay at home. So that now all of a sudden everybody is suddenly forced to learn how to become more technologically savvy,
Yes.
right? Like before COVID, very few people. Yeah, it was, like learning how to use Zoom
Mm-hmm. Yes.
was, after COVID,
Yeah.
there isn't a person in America that doesn't know how to use video communications,
Exactly.
right? It's like all of a sudden, it's like 1 minute you're living in America, the next minute you're living in a science fiction movie, right?
Exactly.
And and there's a lot of changes, cultural changes to go along with that. Some people like it, some people hate it.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and but everybody's adapting.
Yeah.
The people are thinking maybe they're going through a second cycle where commercial real estate
Yeah.
is going to tank again, because what if people don't want to come back to the office and you don't need
Yeah.
those offices anymore? How long is it going to take corporations to basically say, well, if we allowed more of the workforce to stay home, why do we need these buildings?
Exactly.
Right? So all these things are starting to swirl because of COVID. COVID
Yeah.
just wasn't a disease.
Hmm.
It had effects on everybody else's lives that were far reaching in terms of our behavior patterns,
Hmm.
our, like, who are you going to gossip with every day?
Right.
You're
Right.
not seeing them at the water cooler,
Right.
right? You know,
uh,
right?
yeah.
It's just because these are, when you're only meeting people in the context of a meeting that is scheduled for a particular purpose, the whole human side of working in a workplace,
Yeah.
kind of goes like, what do you do with that, right?
Right. Right.
So, and what's the big thing people were, the big physical thing people were learning how to do was how to get in and out of Costco as quickly as possible with as much stuff as you could stuff in your car, so you go back to your cave
Yes.
and sit there waiting for everybody else in the world. It's like, what was it? The movie where everybody gets sick and becomes a zombie.
It was
Charlton has
some.
to start in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Omega Man.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. Anyway, so so you're sitting there going like, is everybody gonna turn into a zombie,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm sitting here going like, is the most valuable possession I have, uh, uh, when all this is said and done and society's falling apart, I'm sitting there going, whether or not do I have an AR-15?
Yeah.
Because I might need it. Because
Yeah.
people started thinking stuff like that, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
because basically we're all going crazy.
Right.
They're
Right.
crazy. The
Right.
sales of alcohol, because we live in California, right? And you
Yeah.
can order booze
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be delivered to your door,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Why not calm? You go in there. But I have so one day I'll have to tell you a long story about how I got all the people. I got called in by the people in from Sand Hill that had invested in that thing to go
Uh-huh.
try to put that thing back together after the end, when the year 2000 debacle of the internet came along. But so people are ordering like hard liquor
Yeah. Yeah.
and drinking it in their house while they're having Zoom meetings.
Right. Yes.
There were like, I remember, there were like internet drinking clubs that popped up
Yeah.
where it was BYOB.
Yeah.
This was this is all COVID, right?
Yeah.
And like, dude, I went nuts, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I was, one, I tried to retire, which was a mistake,
Yeah.
and I got to the point I was going stir crazy. It's the first time in my life I ever deliberately went out and looked for a therapist.
Uh-huh.
And then I wound up doing the whole, you've had a long life and it's had all these things in it. Maybe it's time for you to start unpacking all your boxes and looking inside them and then organizing, exactly how your head's put together, and put all the boxes in good order so you can carry on with your life thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is all precipitated by COVID, because I'm sitting there, my living room and dining room have turned into bulk storage facilities, right? There's like pallets of food stuffs
Mhm.
and things,
Mhm.
like where there used to be a place to pull out the chair, all because of COVID, and everybody else is doing the same thing. And
Ooh,
and more toilet paper than you could count, right?
yes.
So Yeah, no, it was a very weird time, and I think everybody kind of got a little tweaked.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It definitely tested people relationships. It's tested folks mentally. Certain people were isolated. They didn't have, especially for those single folks, they were isolated. It was a lot going on. And I know some folks I knew that worked at nonprofits who were really trying to get out there on the front line and really try to do their best to contain COVID so that it would, affect some of their clients and stuff. And some of those people got sick and they started being depressed. And,
Hmm.
it was harder, which eventually affected their financial state because they couldn't go to work. And a lot of them didn't
Hmm.
have the, vacation time until they implemented the, if you had COVID and they gave you like so many hours of COVID relief and stuff like that. It was hard, man. It was
Hmm.
really, really, really
Oh yeah,
challenging.
yeah. No, I mean, it was difficult on business. It was particularly difficult. This is about so to to relieve my boredom of not having a job that required me to fly back and forth from one side of the United States to another,
Yeah.
um, on a twice a month, um, which also had the weird effect that over time I actually learned how to drive around in New York without
Really
having
wow.
to use the turnpikes. I mean, I got cab driver driving skills in that
Yeah.
part of the world. And it's not necessarily a thing to brag about, but I
So,
learned.
you're
Yeah.
assertive. I'm originally from Chicago, so that's how they drive. I actually
Yeah.
visited New York for the first time in October of 2024, and it was a very interesting experience for me. Very interested.
Yeah.
Traffic.
They
Yeah.
drive different.
Yes. Yes. Very much
Yes.
so.
I learned to ride a motorcycle in New York.
Wow.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's kind of like that was a head trip experience. But I tell you what, man, in terms of like bucket list things,
Hmm.
to ride a motorcycle from New Jersey to New York, going over the George Washington Bridge,
Uh-huh.
dude, it's a bucket list moment. The
Uh-huh.
first time you do it, you just sit there and go like, "This is really, really cool."
Yeah. Oh God.
Um, but yeah, so I remember people struggling to make payroll
Yeah.
during that time. I remember, uh, yeah, it wasn't easy. I remember people scrambling to learn how to do paperwork. Where were the programs that could see them through? And a lot of those people still have those loans still sitting on their books to
Yeah.
this day, particularly nonprofits. They just they pay the interest rate off on those loans as slowly as possible to this day
Yeah.
because they got really good terms, right?
Yeah.
And and not all of it gets forgiven, right?
Yeah.
So but so the lingering effects of COVID are going to be here for a very, very long time, particularly in nonprofit land.
Yeah.
Um, um, but I'll tell you the one thing I do miss about COVID. I
Uh-huh.
really miss those bring your own bottle COVID drinking parties
Yeah.
on Zoom
Yeah.
bar.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
And you like showing off your bottle, going like, "I got one of these," and you're like, "Oh yeah, those are
Yeah.
good."
I mean, folks had to get creative in order, I mean, to really maintain their mental health. You know,
Yeah.
I remember some people would have like birthday parties or parties to celebrate, an achievement on Zoom.
Hmm.
I have a friend who does, well, before COVID, she was doing stand-up comedy. And so she started to get creative and doing comedy through
On
Zoom.
Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was like the sky opened up. But it really did help people to not feel isolated and alone and still feel connected with other people.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was. s- I learned how to use Zoom.
Yeah.
Um, I learned how to use live streams.
Yeah.
Uh, I learned how to use StreamYard, you know, that software where you can go out on multiple platforms at the same time,
Yeah.
uh, in order to do things.
Yeah.
Uh, I learned. I now have very solid opinions as to which of the various ways to set up and communicate with meetings
Yeah.
um, I like and don't like. So,
Yeah.
you know, you go like, what do you think of WebEx? Bleh! What do you
Yeah.
think? What do you think of Zoom? Fine. You know,
Yeah.
what do you think of Teams? Well, you know,
Yeah.
and a lot of people that work now know about all those things.
Yeah.
Before 2020, people go like, I don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, here and so here we are, you know, doing interviews
Yes.
that in the old days, it would have been like, hey, when you gonna be in my part of town? So we can sit down and you know get a couple of microphones in front of us, make a nice pot of coffee,
Yeah.
or you know, entertain each other by showing each other who knows how to use an AeroPress better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But now we can do this, right?
Yeah, well, I started doing the shows on Zoom because of COVID. We have an actual full studio, like a full
Yeah.
studio with the lights and cameras and all that. And I do prefer this better because I feel like it's more accommodating for people's schedule.
Hmm.
Less time travel there to the studio and back and in traffic and stuff. So I was really glad when they, allowed me to continue to do this show after the COVID restrictions was lifted. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, because physically, we're what 350 miles
yeah,
apart, you
yeah,
know, so it's a schlep for you and me to get together and
yeah,
you know, like
exactly.
I would have gone, hey, you want to meet in Fresno at one of those uh farm to table restaurants and just kind of hang out
Yeah,
with a couple of mics.
yes, exactly, exactly. Dennis, I want to shift this a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the stress that some of the because we talked about it a little bit earlier, but more go more into like some of the stressors that happen with small business owner. For those business owner who does not have like the extra support, for those business owners who are doing like the accounting, they're doing the IT work, they're doing the marketing and just running a business by themselves. What advice would you give those small business owners? Because obviously they're wearing all the hats and their stress level is to the roof.
Yeah, so one of the first things you really understand when you do you get yourself deep, you know, well, you made the commitment, right? You've taken
Right,
a good portion of your life savings and said, I'm gonna put it into this,
right,
instead of like keeping it in whatever's left over of my 401k or whatever. And you've got a passion for doing something for service, right? You know, like a product that you want to get
yeah,
out and all that kind of stuff. But you're pretty much alone. So all of a sudden, all of the other stuff that, you know, people go to MBA school
yeah,
or corporations hire large staffs to do your accounting, your IT,
yeah,
your shipping, you know, filing your compliance reports,
yeah,
business licenses, taxes, you know, because you got, you know, businesses have to have a much higher requirement of paperwork to keep up with.
yeah,
And you're starting to do all that in your kitchen table,
right,
right? And it's just you. And typically, you know, the smaller the business, the more modest its goals, the less likely you are to have, you know, to have a master's in business administration degree to help you along.
yeah,
And harder and but you still got to get it all done because the government, particularly the compliance side, doesn't care that you don't
right,
have all that in line. The bank doesn't care that you don't have you know, an accountant and that you don't have the budget to do annual audited financial statements, all that kind of stuff that people expect. Try getting an SBA 7A loan if you don't have all that paperwork in line. It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
And and people don't have very many outlets. But by the way, when I do the stuff in terms of building lending programs for CDFIs, I basically, you got to fill that gap. That's your job, right?
Yeah.
Below what the government's lowest level program can do, below what the bank's lowest level program can do, there's just still this vast amount of small businesses that need this kind of financial help, right? And small business development centers are into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The thing is, they have absolutely no interest in the mental well-being of the entrepreneur during that, because there's a stigma in America against asking for that kind of help, right?
Mhm.
We're all expected to be able to handle it.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, if you were running a corporation and you you get one of those C-suite jobs, like, and I've had them, right? Where your first 3 days are meeting with a whole bunch of lawyers signing papers, so that you're bringing yourself into that thing because it's a SEC, registered publicly traded company, blah 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 blah, right? And then because you're going to show up on the, you're going to move the stock price just because you showed up in the office, right? And
Yeah.
there's like 500, 2,000 people sitting there and go, these are all your people, right? Um, you got to do the job of all of those people on your kitchen table,
Yeah.
and you're not allowed to fail.
Wow.
I mean, um, if you were like a kitchen table import export business, right? You got what? Import stuff. You've got stuff that has to go through port clearance,
Yeah.
all that kind of paperwork. I mean, it's a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
and think of it. So like, you need help. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to try to turn to your family for some help. Your
Mhm.
family's going to go like, we don't have absolutely no idea what the heck you're doing,
Yeah.
and we don't have the skills to go do that. You're the one who wanted to do this, right? So there's a stressor right there,
Yeah.
right? You're starting to create those kinds of things in the happening in your family. Your relatives are looking at you going like, have you got nuts?
Yeah.
Why don't you get a real job? And you go like, no, no, this is my passion. I know what to do, the whole thing. And they go, but you don't know how to be an accountant. You don't know how to be uh, an auditor. You don't know how to be, whatever, right? And or are your licenses up to date for what you're trying to do? Just keeping up with your, like, if you wanted to do a food truck, you got all these licenses that you got to pick up,
Yeah.
right? All these health standards and inspections and all these kinds of things that you need to stay on top of just to get just to be able to keep your doors open. Otherwise, you wind up going trying to convince people that having the letter B on your food truck means that your food is better,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is not true.
Right. Oh,
But so it's stressful.
yeah.
And uh small business development centers are happy to work with you on your financial stuff,
Yeah.
but they typically will tell you, if you have mental support issues, that ain't our business.
Yeah.
And so, like, where do you go?
Yeah.
If you're a bank and you've given a loan to somebody and they start to fall behind, right?
Yeah.
So your your loan servicing system is starting to show infrequent delinquency,
Yeah. Wow.
X number of days of payments late on your the outstanding loans. Because these are all computerized now, right? So they can pick up on all this kind of stuff, and they go like, and those are all indicators that that business might be stressed, but they
Yeah.
don't have any facilities to help you.
Yeah.
They don't even know how to start, and that's kind of like the whole motivation of why what I'm trying to do in the world of mental health for small business
Yeah.
is it's not just helping the entrepreneur
Yeah.
with their mental things. It's how do you mobilize all of the other services that should be aware that this is an issue,
Yeah.
right? For the bank, it's like if you got in there and you help this person, that loan probably isn't going to go from being delinquent to being in default,
Right. Right.
right? Which is a very big deal.
Yeah.
Um, because that's money. And uh and that the if you're from a regulatory standpoint, why aren't you checking to make sure if it's a small business with a particular profile, is everything okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember doing the everything okay thing, man, a number of times, and it is amazing how much it helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
You
military guys, they do buddy check-ins, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So like, why isn't there some sort of why is the culture for small business owners not full of that same kind of buddy check-in culture mentality that helps take the stress off?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why it's important for like small business owners to go like to mixers and things like that. It's just not to grow their business, but you can meet people who is on the
Mm-hmm.
same level as you, who have the same stresses that you're having, people that are gonna be a support system to you and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why it's important to just go out there and mix and mingle with people that is, having a small business the same as
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, you need a peer group.
Yeah,
You need a peer group that understands what your problems are,
exactly.
and
That's
that can only be done firsthand. And then sometimes you need professional help, right?
hmm
So, like, how do you get people professional help? The problem with professional help for small businesses is while it's available, it's like um, it's an opportunity cost problem.
Yeah.
I just use an MBA term. I'm sorry.
No,
Um,
but it is. It is.
yeah, right. It's like, do I spend money on a therapist to help me understand how to like keep myself centered for my business? So I'm going like I've identified so many needs in this thing of like why where is the emphasis in the healthcare insurance system
Yeah.
for small businesses on being able to get professional help? Where are the fee relief programs
hmm
that are available for other things? Why aren't there fee relief programs for businesses that can make it so that the mental health community isn't like going, we really like to help, but we'll go broke doing this because the fees don't aren't enough to do the work. It's like the insurance company won't pay us the actual value or time of making that happen, which has a ripple effect on other industries. And there's a lot of issues that need to be looked at in
Yeah.
order to make it all work. I mean, like I talk to my banker friends and I go like, why aren't you sponsoring a workshop for this at your bank for all of your clients? Why aren't you sponsoring workshops at this
hmm
at your favorite CDFI for
Yeah.
all of their clients? Why aren't you sponsoring workshops for this at your community nonprofit that's trying to talk people into getting into this thing? Um, as part of letting people know this is what you're really getting into, and this is the help that you need to look for, and this is the help that you can get,
Yeah.
right? Because we don't have all that stuff lined up right now. And can you tell I'm a little bit passionate about this?
No, that's great. I think that's excellent because you're actually educating me. So that's good. I love to learn. So that's really good. Dennis, we have run out of time, but I do want to, oh, this was excellent for me. Trust me, like we're going to do some more shows together. And you have a radio voice. Have you ever been told that?
Yes, I have. I have.
Yeah.
I'm a ham radio operator, so my voice is very very attuned to radio, and I actually clean up enough that I can look decent enough in person. And I've been told I have a personality that would be absolutely perfect, that I could get a second career as a Vegas uh, comedic lounge act.
I agree. I 100% agree. And just never met you in person, but just this interaction on Zoom, good personality, good voice. So yeah, we're going to do some more shows together. And there's a lot of things I want to pick your brain on too outside of this. So we'll definitely stay in contact. And that's it for this edition of Mental Health Matters. If you enjoyed this particular show, or if you would like a copy of this show, or if you would like to be a guest on our show, please dial 916-366-4600. Thank you.